welcome to Chair Pilates. So today we're going to take a few of the Pilates principles and apply them to a seated position for anyone that is immobile or desk worker or injured that can't stand or use feet, ankles, knees. We will do some feet, ankles, foot, ankle, knee work, but it's all seated, so it's all nice and gentle and accessible. So let's just start with our breathing. Sit up nice and tall, take a big breath in, try to expand three-dimensionally. Exhale, blow it out the mouth. Inhale. And exhale. One more inhale. Try to expand the rib cage forward, side and back. And exhale. And we'll start by building a neutral spine. So from the bottom up, let's start with some pelvic tucks. Exhale and just roll right off of your sits bones. And when you inhale, come right up, back up tall onto the sits bones. Exhale, tuck and roll off. Inhale, back up on. So there's really no wrong way to do this. But the goal of this first move is to see if we can get the pelvis moving somewhat independently of the rib cage. We do something called a roll back where the whole body's gonna roll back. But for right now, we're focusing on finding some good juicy movement through the pelvis. The head stays stacked on top of the shoulders. You keep a nice tall feeling. Just add that tuck of the tailbone. Let's do one more. And then come to a nice tall seated position. From here we'll go into a few little twists. So you're just going to slide one knee forward, let the pelvis tip with you, and then bring it back to center. Let's slide the other knee. And bring it back in. So there are multiple levels or ways to do this. You could twist that knee and move your whole upper body if that feels good. Inhale, bring it back to center. Exhale, twist. Inhale, back to center. A little bit more challenging way to do it is to twist through just the pelvis. And yes, your butt cheeks sliding around on the chair below you. Exhale, twist, but keep the rib cage center. Let's do one more of your choosing, whichever one felt better. And inhale, and exhale. And inhale. Good. Find that nice tall seated position right on your sits bones. Let's move the rib cage. I like to bring my hands to my hips for rib cage movement. Inhale, just press the rib cage forward, and when you exhale, try to send your rib cage back, but stay tall on your sits bones. So a side angle looks like this. Exhale. And see how I'm not tucking my tailbone to pull the ribs back? It's challenging, but it's worth trying to see if we can move these two things independently. Two more forward and back. Last one. All right, bring it back to center. Now we're gonna go side to side. So when you exhale, press the rib cage over to one side and then exhale over to the other. I like to say the head and shoulders are just along for the ride. They're gonna have a little bit of a tendency to wanna right themselves to stay centered while the rib cage moves. But see if you can let this whole upper part of your spine move independently from the pelvis for four more. 4, 3, 2, then we're gonna do some circles. So you'll come forward to one side, to the back, to the other side, reverse forward, side, back, and side. One more set, forward, side, back, and try to not tuck the tailbone. Last one, side, back, and side. And then let all of that fall nice and juicy down, stacked on top of the pelvis. Sit up nice and tall. I'll show you this one from the side. When you inhale, you'll pull your chin back to lengthen the back of your neck. When you exhale, release to where you were. Inhale. Exhale. This is something that feels really nice if you have a tension headache from sitting at your computer all day or just from life itself. This will lengthen the back of your muscles here that are actually quite short if you tend to sit with your head really far forward of your shoulders. 2 more. Last one. Okay, from here, let's start with some feet. I think I will show you from the front. So we're gonna start by just exhale, lifting up onto the balls of the feet, and then lowering back down. And just go with that and release. So while you're doing this movement, you're feeling what's happening in the ankles. There's this nice big stretch. It also contracts your calves, shortening through the backside. And for some people, it might give you a little tendency to want to tuck the tailbone, but see if you can fight that. See if you can stay nice and tall in your sits bones. Now, to take it a little bit farther, you're going to go past the ball of the foot and all the way up to the toe, the big toe only. And now that the knees are lifting a little bit higher, that tendency to want to roll back off of the sits bones is going to be a little bit stronger. What you can do is use your breathing that we found at the beginning, use your rib cage alignment, use your pelvic alignment to try to hold everything still. 2 more like this. Last one. Lower down. Good. Just the toes. Lift the toes and lower. Lift and lower. Can you try to splay the toes the whole time? Lifting and lowering. 4 more. 4. And 3, keep using your core. Here's 2. And then we're gonna add the whole foot lifting. So toes and balls of the feet lift and lower. Exhale up, inhale down. And you'll start to notice that there are gonna be some muscles in your legs that might start to contract in the process. That would be A-okay, not just okay, wonderful. 2 more. Last one, moving on to the knees. We're going to flex the feet, which means keep the foot at a 90-degree angle when they're on the ground. And when you exhale, you'll lift your knee up, point your toe, lower back down. Other leg. So, if you're sitting in a tall chair, it might be quite hard to lift that knee without rolling off of your sits bones. Here's the thing, you're not doing anything wrong if it's impossible for you to not roll back. What you're trying to do is engage your core to hold that nice neutral curve of your spine and point your toe in the process so that you're working all the way down to your ankles. If you tend to roll back a little bit, amazing, you're still doing a great job. Just try to fight it. The work comes in trying to avoid that position. Let's do 4 more. Go 4. Also try to avoid the shimmy side to side if you can. Here's 2. And last one, taking it a little bit farther. This next time when you lift one of your legs, exhale, lift it, and then see if you can straighten out your knee. Bring it in, lower down, other leg, lift, extend, lower, and down. If you want, you can do that flexion of the foot at the edge there, at that longest position. And here's my thing, you can put that exhale wherever the work is hardest. So I'm gonna inhale, then inhale, then inhale, exhale, inhale, and lower. Keep going. It is totally okay if your knee doesn't get straight. And it's totally okay if your thigh stays on the chair the whole time. Just getting this movement through the ankle and the knee is going to do wonders for your blood flow in your lower body. Let's do 1 more each leg. Last one. And down. Good. All right, roll back of your sits bones. If you want to grab onto your knees and breathe into the back body, awesome. Sit up nice and tall. We're going to be in a neutral spinal position for this next one. If you would like to add some little weights to your arms, that would be an amazing thing for your shoulders. My weights are too far for me to reach. So from here, let's reach out with our palms facing down. Exhale the arms out to the side, and just for a second, feel what's going on in your shoulder blades. Can you make your shoulder blades tuck down underneath your armpits? Keep your hands in your periphery so you can see them the whole time. And then try for that neutral spine where we have a natural curve in this direction in the low back. We have a natural curve in the opposite direction in the upper back. and the head stays stacked right on top of the shoulders. Sitting up nice and tall. As you exhale, twist towards one side. Pause here. Make sure the pelvis didn't go with you. Keep your knees centered and at the same length. Inhale, come back through center. Exhale, switch sides. Inhale, center, and exhale. If you have weights in your arms and you want to do straight arms, great. Your arms weigh a little bit less in a sense if you bend your elbows. Every time you come back to center, reach through the crown of your head. If this is feeling really good, you can double pulse it. So it's but just be wary that while you do this, especially with that double pulse, those knees are going to try to shift, which means your pelvis is shifting. So really try to twist only with the rib cage. One more each side. And lower the arms, grab onto the elbows, roll back, breathe into your back body. You can do a little ding, ding, side to side sway. All right, sit up nice and tall, neutral spine, arms behind your head if you can. You can always just do across the chest, elbows in your periphery. This is a crunch. It is not a rollback yet. From here, sitting up nice and tall, trying to maintain the natural curve in your low back. When you exhale, nod your chin and roll down to the point just before you have to come off of your sits bones to go any farther. This is it for me. This is my crunch. I'm going to inhale, restack the spine one vertebrae at a time. That's your move. Exhale, roll down. Inhale, roll up. Exhale, down. And inhale. So when we do this on the mat, we're not doing a sit up because that would require that the low back touched down. But we're only going to a point where we find that flexion in the upper spine only. Let's do 4 more. Restack, bring the head back every time. 3 more. And our spine like spirals, so really try to go 1 vertebrae at a time. Head, then neck, then shoulders, then restack in the opposite direction. Last one. And sit up nice and tall. From here, take the arms out in front of you, and now we're going to do the whole spine. So first things first, check to make sure you still know what the pelvis roll is. Rolling on and off your sits bones without taking the ribs into it. We just practiced doing the ribs. Let's put it together in a sequence, and I'll tell you the sequence here. When you exhale, tuck your tailbone. And then 1 vertebrae at a time, roll into a nice rounded C curve of a spine, or maybe just till you hit the back of your chair. When you inhale, come to sit up, and the first second you can flip back up onto those sits bones, do it, and then let that spiral up through your spine to reset neutral. So exhale, tuck and roll back. Inhale, sit up tall. Exhale, tuck and roll. Inhale, sit up tall. So you keep going, and I want you to take note of a couple of different things that tend to happen here. Sometimes we think it's going to help us get deeper by reaching the shoulder blades, and that's not necessarily the case. So can you try to keep your shoulders nice and set in their position and let the spine do this work? The other thing is that when we get too far back, sometimes the head juts forward because the abs don't want to hold that much weight. But can you challenge yourself to keep your head stacked on top of your shoulders the whole time? The whole entire goal of this move is spinal articulation, 1 vertebrae at a time. Let's do 2 more. Exhale, belly button in on those exhales. Inhale, sit up tall. Last one. Now, let's keep doing this, but we're going to add something. So roll back, stay. Take 1 arm and twist it open. Don't let your knees slide past one another. Only your ribs glide and twist. Inhale, come back through center all the way up tall. Exhale, tuck and roll back, other arm. Inhale, sit up tall. Keep going. Articulate back. Pelvis first, then the arm sweeps open. Inhale, bring it back through center. Exhale. These are super slow and controlled because we're flexing the whole spine and we're twisting. That's a lot going on in the spine at one time. Check in with the pelvis. Make sure you're not straining the low back even more by making it twist as well. And we'll do one more each side. Relax those shoulders. Head over the shoulders. Inhale. Last one. And come back through center. If you want, you can grab onto your knees and do the same seated shell stretch that we did earlier where we breathe into the back body. Or if it feels a little bit better for you because we just did so much flexion, you're welcome to prop yourself up on your knees. Maybe you just lean forward and give your spine a little rest here. You can twist side to side. We have one more direction to move the spine here, and that's going to be into a side bend. So whenever you're ready, come back up to seated. And again, if you're feeling really strong, you can take some hand weights into your hands. And when I say hand weights, I mean like 2-3 pounds, not too much. We're going overhead, so we don't want to use too much seated. I'm going to take my hand to my hip here and try to find that nice tall neutral spine, remembering chin back. That's the number one thing for most people. All right, so everything is nice and stacked on top of the sits bones. The other arm is going to reach up overhead, and as you exhale, you're going to let the rib cage shift over to one side to stretch out that side of your waist. Then when you inhale, bring the rib cage back to center, restack. Exhale, shift. Inhale, bring it back. There are multiple ways to do side bends. This is the first one. And inhale, one more like this. Try to avoid tucking the tailbone. It's not getting you any deeper. The other version is to lean and shift the ribs in the opposite direction and shorten this side of the waist to lengthen this side. Come back up. So notice when we did this, we kind of shortened this side. It wasn't exactly a shorten, but now crunch this side. Lean up and over. Inhale, come back up to center. Let's do 2 more. And Pilates is always just about finding those different ways to move that are going to benefit your body most. Bring the arm down by your side. Let's go to the other side. Again, if you have that hand weight, it's just in your top hand. Gives you a little bit more feeling in the shoulders. All right, nice neutral spine. Flip the tailbone down. Pull the ribs back. Chin back. Here we go. Let's start by shifting the ribs in the opposite direction. Shift and stretch. And inhale, center, sit up tall. Exhale. And inhale. Feeling the rib cage shift away into the armpit of the lifted arm. One more. Good. And now we're going to change the way the rib cage shifts. Can you shift the ribs, almost shift them this way, but tilt down, crunch this side of the waist. And come back up to center. Whew. You can always plant your hand if it's a little challenging and you don't want to fall out of your chair. Try to avoid that tuck back that sometimes we get really, we're like, oh no, I'm scared, and we tuck back. Trust your neutral, trust your core. Inhale, center. Lower that down. Grab onto your knees, round back, breathe into the back body. Do a little shimmy shake. Woo! Good. Let's come all the way up to standing. We'll finish off with just a hip flexor stretch because we've been seated the whole time. So if you can stand and you have something to hold onto, then awesome. Grab onto something. I'm just going to hold onto the wall. Pull my heel into my glute, and this part's going to be really important. Remember the pelvic tuck we did multiple times? Can you tuck your tailbone here? If you can't still hold your leg, use your chair. So your leg would just be propped up on your chair. Tuck your tailbone. If you need more stretch, maybe you grab for your pant leg. Maybe you can still hold your leg. Now make sure you don't lose that posterior tilt. Make sure your knee doesn't travel forward, and squeeze your glutes. That's where you'll find that nice active hip flexor stretch. Just hold for a few breaths. And then once this feels good, slowly release, and let's get the other side. So I'm just gonna start by putting my leg on my not real chair. Stand up nice and tall, and sometimes you have to adjust. Like I need to go a little bit farther forward. Tuck your tailbone. That squeezes your glute, it lengthens your low back. Make sure the knee is behind you. If this is as far as you need to go to feel the stretch, amazing. My chair is really low, so it's accessible for me. If your chair is a little higher, you might want to just grab your pant leg. If you feel good, you can pull that leg in. Just don't lose the posterior tilt, the pelvic tuck. Take a few breaths here. Feel that stretching out from your center all the way down to your knee. And then release. Thank you for joining me with Chair Pilates. If you have any questions, please let me know. And I hope to be posting a few more of these throughout the next week or two. Have a great day.